Good day, everybody. Thank you for joining us on yet another episode of the podcast. And today we're going to be talking about how to build agri-tech startups that scales, proven lessons from a product design to market launch. And our guest today is Nabil Ayoub, all the way from Morocco. And so I'm just going to read out his bio so you guys get to know him a bit, and then we'll start out the conversation. So Nabil Ayoub is a seasoned product and data leader driving innovation at the intersection of agriculture, technology, and sustainability across Africa. As the head and product engineer in an agrotech space, Nabil leads the design and development of scalable analytics and AI-powered platform that helps agricultural organizations unlock their full potentials for their data for smarter and more impactful decision making. Nabil is also the founder of Agri Insight, a pioneering Moroccan agri-tech startup on a mission to transform farm data into actionable insight. Through Agri Insight, Nabil drives cutting-edge analytics as a service solution that empowers farmers, cooperative, and agribusiness to improve productivity and sustainability. Beyond his leadership role, Nabil actively supports Africa's green innovation ecosystem as a trusted advisor to early-stage agri-tech and green tech startups. He also partners with founders to validate ideas, craft robust product strategy, and boost modern AI and data pipelines that accelerates their journey to the market. Whether it's through mentorship, product design, or AI architecture, Nabib is passionate about helping African agri-tech solutions scale sustainably and make lasting impact. So Nabib, thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast.
Thank you, Osarugue. It's a pleasure.
All right. So my very first question to you is, what sort of inspired you to venture into agri-tech? Because you could have been playing with it within technology in other spaces, maybe finance or something else. But what sort of inspired you to venture into agri-tech? And what's your definition of problems that you set out to solve through Agri Insight?
Yeah, so thank you very much, Osarugue, for the invitation. I've been following your podcast for quite some time now, and I just want to say that you're doing an amazing job getting people into, agriculture. And yeah, so I have a background actually in agriculture economy. So my major was agriculture economy, and uh,
Wow.
yeah, what I wanted to do is to really bridge a missing piece that I found in agriculture. So
Okay.
I've studied agriculture and agronomy for 5 to 6 years, and I've
Mhm.
seen that there's a huge waste of potential in terms of data. Okay, and I
Mhm.
saw how much valuable information gets lost actually, or
Yeah.
stays unused on farms, whether locally or really nationally. So with
Sure.
Agri Insights, what we wanted to do is to get this raw data into
Mhm.
useful and really simple insights, okay? Not very complicated, straight to the point, and something that farmers and agribusinesses actually can actually use. Here in
Okay.
Morocco and in Africa, actually, data use is in agriculture is still very young.
Yes, it
So
is.
we wanted, yeah, to build on top of this and really give farmers the right tools to act upon.
Wow, that's really good. It's good to hear that you studied agroeconomics. That's like my bachelor's background as well. Like, oh, nice.
That's amazing.
Yeah, nice. And I like the fact that your startup is focused on data because data is really valuable in terms of like
Yeah.
making decisions for your business, growing your business, knowing
Mm.
how best to sort of serve your customers. So that's like really, really good. Really, really good. So what does a strong product strategy look like in agritech,
Mhm.
especially when you're
Mhm.
building solutions for smallholders, farmers, and
Mhm.
cooperatives?
Mhm. Yeah, so in terms of strategy, data can be very messy. I think the most important thing is to not overbuild. So that's a very important strategy. Um,
Mm,
Keep things simple at
okay.
first, because you shouldn't assume what farmers want. You need to talk to your audience, to your
Yeah.
users, and really understand the problems they're having. And to avoid obviously overbuilding, you need to test early. You need to
Mm,
have a strategy, to an iterative strategy to build and test, and that's obviously the MVP strategy.
yeah.
And something also that's very important is to co-create with users.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, just go ahead, just go into the field, ask for the main problems, and try to solve one of them while keeping
Yeah.
things very light and using existing technology. Because usually, as engineers, or we tend to focus on the engineering part, on solving a complex problem with an elegant solution. That's not
Yeah.
what it's actually about. You should
Yeah.
think as a business, from a business standpoint, from a value standpoint. You should
Yeah.
bring value in the simplest, quickest, and fastest way to the market.
Mm-hmm. I like how you put it. Like, just build your MVP. To
Yeah.
alongside the feedback that you get, and just sort of iterate as you go. Fantastic.
Yeah, and
That's really
specifically for data, especially for data. Data is, as I said, can be quite messy, so you'll need to test very, very early on.
yeah. That's really good. So from your own experience, what would you say are like some of the common mistakes do that early
Mhm.
stage agritech founders make when building a product,
Mhm.
and how can this be avoided?
Yeah, I think, as I said, you tend to assume what people want, what farmers want. You need to go out there and listen to your users. However, one problem is also not innovating enough. And what I mean by not
Mm,
innovating, I don't mean starting a startup that does something that doesn't exist, but actually try and do your homework in terms of competitors, in terms of existing solutions. Because nowadays we
yeah.
see a lot of clutter in terms of, data providers for IoT, for satellite imagery. This data is very important, of course. However, we are seeing a lot of noise in the
True.
ecosystem. A lot of
True.
people doing the exact same thing, and not one of them trying to be different. Okay,
Yeah.
in my opinion, the way to differentiate your product is usually to bring value in terms of agronomy, in terms of agriculture. Because
Yeah.
actually, Agridata, the company I was working in, their CEO says that usually agri-tech startups are 70% agriculture and agronomy, and only 30% technology. So focus on the agricultural part and not on the technological part, because tech can come right away. However,
Mm,
if you don't bring real value in the agriculture, in the agronomy specialty, you won't
yeah.
have success.
That's really good. Really, really good. So technology in itself, it's more like an enabler for the things that are already being done within this space.
Yeah, exactly. And as I said, you need to really look for something that gives you the edge
Which
over your
that is
competitors, and also try and build for the ecosystem, not for yourself. So, for example, if someone does IoTs better than you, try to
yeah.
complement what they do and not to compete in a market that where you might not have a competitive advantage.
I like that. I like that. Speaking of that, how can founders sort of form meaningful partnerships? Because you just said something like that. How can they form meaningful
Yeah.
partnerships? Whether it's with startups or cooperatives or agribusiness or government, to sort of accelerate the product adoption and growth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so as a startup, as an early stage startup, partnerships are very important.
Yes.
The most important thing I think nowadays is getting partners like clients, but
Yeah.
with whom you're gonna co-create or co-build. That's like the most important partnership you would do as a startup. However, there's like I'd say more important or bigger partnerships with maybe government or other agribusinesses.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think the most important thing is start by listening. You should listen, really listen in meetings to what they say, and not only what they say, but what they don't say. And that's very important because you need to show up and really understand their pain points. And from this, you can offer something very useful, even if it's small. You shouldn't, from the first meeting, pitch tech. Don't pitch tech. Pitch value. And that's how we did it. We've actually started with a lot of partners. They were agribusinesses, the government as well, and we tried to go for POCs, proof of concepts projects. We
Yeah.
tried to deliver value very quickly, and even if it was very small, one project at a time, and that's how we built one success story at a time, and then we started scaling.
Wow, that's really good. Really good. One project at a time. Yes, that's good. Fantastic. So, from your own experience, what would you say it takes to build like a modern, scalable data infrastructure for agriculture?
Mhm.
And can you
Mhm.
sort of walk us through maybe some behind the scene processes?
Yeah, definitely. So first of all, we need to understand what's exactly a data ecosystem. A data
Okay.
ecosystem is a bunch of mechanisms for four things mainly. So we have
Okay.
the data collection mechanisms. Okay, so everything related to data collection in terms of sensors, in terms of information systems,
Yeah.
satellite imagery, basic Excels and sensors and logs, even SMS and WhatsApp. That's also some very interesting data. So once you get these mechanisms in check for data collection, because obviously when you have garbage in, you get garbage out. So you need to make sure that the data is well collected and that the pipeline is well structured to transform, to clean your data. Then we have the data storage, and these are usually the data centers, every like infrastructure that will make data sustainability very easy for you. So you should be able to access it very quickly. It should be secure, obviously, and it's like basically a bunch of servers when you can host your data. So even if it's the cloud or your servers on premises, so you'll need to have a bunch of databases that are close to each other so they can communicate easily with each other.
True.
Okay.
True.
Third
Yeah.
is the processing, okay, and transformation of the data. And that's also a very important part because this is where the value kicks in. So here we transform the raw data into agronomical insights or into economical insights, sustainability insights, whatever the farmer needs. And so here, Agri Insights lies within, it's actually 70% of its work. It's transforming this raw data into something the farmers actually want to see. So we
Yeah.
get the data in, we store it obviously in somewhere secure and very close to each other, and
Yeah.
then we transform it into dashboards, into KPIs, into models using machine learning and AI. And then later on, which is the fourth mechanism, we
Yeah.
try and share it. Okay, we
Uh,
share the data through insights that are sent by SMS, by WhatsApp, or through dashboards that the user can access easily, through also AI chatbots that can respond to your questions very easily. So that's very important uh, to get within the four mechanisms. And
True.
here in Morocco, and I think in Africa, the ecosystem is very, how would we say, it's not focused in one place. Okay, a lot of startups are doing a lot of efforts, huge efforts, but are progressing within their own ecosystems. The thing is,
Mm.
Agri Insight, what it's actually doing, we're actually regrouping or getting together all of the startups, the agri-tech startup, the data
Okay.
providers, and grouping their data into one single, source of truth. And that's very, very, very crucial for the farmer, because why would you get a temperature data from a sensor that you cannot cross analyze it with yield data or whatever other data from another sensor or another information structure? So this cross analysis is very important, and I think that we're going into a world where all ecosystems, all data ecosystems for certain sectors are getting focused in one place, and where you have a community, where you have a lot of connectors, and you're actually seeing this in the AI scene, with a lot
Yeah.
of connectors behind the scene that are working without you having to do something. So that's actually the direction here in Morocco, but also in some African countries.
Oh, that's really, really, really good. Really good. So, what would you say are some of like the practical or say small ways or early
Mhm.
stage startup can start collecting, managing these data even with limited resources?
Yeah, that's a good question. Collecting data is usually uh, quite expensive, not only in terms of in a financial way, but also in terms of time, in terms of human resources.
Yes,
What
yeah,
I can say is use what's already there. So what I mean by that is using WhatsApp, using paper forms that exist, basic Excels and Google Sheets. Um, you don't need, as a startup, right away to invest into sensors or AI or
mm,
information systems. Okay,
yeah,
just start small. Try to standardize your processes, your data collection processes, and try to build from that foundation. Because when you have the right systems in place, you can
yeah.
very well and easily scale later with technology. And as I said, focus on the 70% that is agriculture. The technological part, or the tech part, which is 30%, will come very easily later.
That's really good. Really, really good. So, so when it comes to like building AI-driven solutions for agriculture
Mhm,
specifically, how do you sort of ensure that you know, uh, the data quality is reliable enough to generate
mhm.
meaningful insight?
Ah, yeah, as I said, yeah, data is a very tricky situation, because it happens that sometimes you train your model, or you give uh, data that is incorrect from the source.
Yeah.
And that's a huge issue with farmers, because you can't just say that your data is wrong, or the data that we collected is wrong. You'll need to clean it, obviously, firsthand, but most importantly, validate it with the people who
Mm,
collect it.
yeah.
Because you cannot know whether a data is correct or wrong if the people that are collecting it are not validating it with you. And that's what we're doing right now. We try to cross-check every data that we're collecting through automated pipelines. However, we always have a person that double checks all the data that comes in, using basic metrics like the beans, the averages, and just to see whether there are some inconsistencies, or
Yeah.
data or
Consistencies, yeah.
some data that is weird. And
Yeah.
so what we're trying to do is to get this expertise and give it to an AI system that can learn from this. Because usually, what expert systems are is this: you try and get the human intelligence and human instincts, I would say, and give them to an AI to redo and to actually try and mimic what the human does. So what we did is, first of all, we tried to do the data using automated processes, as I said. We try to validate it with the people who collect it, and on top of this, we have an AI that can actually cross-check this data. The most important thing, as I said earlier, technology is not important, but here it's a huge lever for building
Yes.
systems that actually flags errors. So, for example, if we have an error, obviously we do not delete the error, we just flag it, and we get the user involved as well. Because sometimes what happens is the data seems incorrect, but it actually has a meaning for the end users. For example, if you have
Mm,
a data that is big enough or that you consider as an outlier, for the end
yeah.
user, it actually has a meaning. And in
Mm,
certain industries, you actually study the outliers and not the normal distribution. For example, in statistics, when you have a distribution, you have a bunch of observations that follow the normal distribution. However, you can
yes.
have outliers. Sometimes these
True.
outliers are worth checking out, and they
Mm,
actually give you a lot of insights. For example, for
nice.
temperature or for climate data, sometimes it's really nice to see the outliers and just understand what's happening. Is it really spikes in the temperature? Is the sensors not working well? Is it something that's doing this within the greenhouse? So, data, as I said, can be quite tricky. However, with the right foundations, with the right automations and expertise, you can get away with nice AI machine learning models.
Fantastic. That's really good. So, what would you say are some of the low cost data or AI tool
Mhm.
that agri-tech founders can sort of explore when building minimum viable products?
Perfect. Yeah, I love this question because the trend lately has been how to go to the market very fast, how to get to
Yes.
market before your competitors, and that's
Yeah.
that's like the holy grail of startups.
Yeah.
So right now there are a lots of tools that give you this edge, that give you this ability to build very fast. And that's what I've been doing with a lot of startups. Many startups
Mm,
nowadays are trying to build very fast for their
yeah.
clients or for a product. And so we've been experimenting with a lot of AI tools for MVP building, but the one that really stuck with me was Lovable.ai. And it's actually one of the
Yeah.
fastest growing MVP building or software development applications. And what I love about Lovable is that it's really, really growing very fast with a lot of features. And what's interesting is that they're using their obviously AI to build the
Mm,
software, and that's where the speed of development comes from. And so what we've been doing with these startups is basically prototype using Lovable, okay,
okay.
just to get a prototype ready, validated with the clients ASAP. So for example, with a recent startup, a prototype that took them 2 weeks, we've built it together in basically 30 minutes, and it had a much better, interfaces, a lot of beautiful graphs and charts, more insights. And what's interesting is that the AI, with their knowledge of the SaaS, scenes of the startup scenes, they actually give you a lot of suggestions that you say, "Oh, I didn't think about this." So
Yeah.
what we did is we've built a prototype. We were able to validate it very quickly, and now the prototype is validated and they're going for development. And what's interesting as well is that AI gives you not only the prototype but also the code behind, so you can get the code and really go fast and build right away using the code, which you can fine tune later, of course. However, this is for software development. Now for data. For the data part, building dashboard, building customization capabilities within tools is quite hard. So that's why there are a lot of tools that are open source and that are free, like you can install within your computer, that gives you this edge in terms of visualization. So you can give
Yeah.
you can use very simple data, placeholder data within Excel, and you can display beautiful charts. And I'm thinking of Retool first. I'm thinking of
Okay.
Power BI, obviously Microsoft Power BI, that you can embed within your tools. I'm thinking also of Metabase. Metabase is a visualization tool that I've been using lately, and that is amazing for. It's open source, obviously. It's free,
Okay.
and you can actually embed the dashboards within your application. So if you're looking to
Oh,
go very fast when building an MVP, get Metabase, launch it within your server, and then embed the dashboards or visualizations within your applications, and then you're like having a separate part or mechanism for data processing. And that's a very important thing because it's two different worlds. The data world is not the software engineering world. So you have your software
yes.
engineers, but you also have your data science teams that are working separately, but they're combined, usually using this embedded. So that's also a nice little trick that we've been doing for the past 2 years.
That's commendable. Commendable work you yourself and your team have been doing. Really, really commendable.
Thank you.
So my next question, you're welcome. So my next question at this time is, um, how can startups leverage existing data ecosystem or open source platform, like you mentioned, to sort of fast track their AI and analytics abilities?
Okay, so when you say data ecosystems, um, I usually think of existing data sets or open data sets, like, for example, weather APIs that are
Yeah.
quite open, anything related to satellite imagery. However, what's interesting also is the amount of data that is available for free. There's a lot
Mm,
of GitHub repos with a lot of projects that actually use open source data. So for startups that are starting and trying to fast track their analytics capabilities, I would say you shouldn't start from scratch. Try and use what existing in terms of data, okay, and build on top of that. And as I said, stand on others' shoulders, not try
yeah.
and build everything on your own. So there's a lot of communities as well in the internet. You can find on Reddit, on LinkedIn as well, some nice communities that actually share a lot of nice resources. So
True.
try and get and see what other people are building. That's something I didn't do at first, and I've regretted it since then. I regret that I didn't, try and get inspired by other
Mhm.
solutions or by what other people are doing. And that's a beginner's mistake. And for anyone who's starting right now, the adventure of an agritech startup, try and get into communities, and it's going to give you a lot of nice ideas. It
Mhm.
might also make you pivot into other ideas because you see that there's an opportunity in a certain market better than
Yeah.
the one you intended.
Beautiful. That's really good. Really, really good. So I know that you advocate a lot for sustainable innovations, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So what step can agri-tech founders take to ensure that their solutions are both scalable and environmentally friendly?
Yeah. So sustainability has been obviously a huge part of what we're building at Agri Insights. And
Hmm.
I think there's three things. So sustainability obviously is not only related to the environment, it's actually building something for real world use, not something
Yeah.
that is just waste or digital waste. So I think the first thing would be low connectivity tools. Try and build something that is low connectivity. Uh, tools that are affordable, and this is where the
Yeah.
financial engineering comes in. You should
Yeah.
be able to sell your tools in an affordable way. Obviously, you shouldn't be very expensive, but obviously the price should be able to pay your costs and leave you a certain margin.
Yeah.
And the third thing I would say is to reduce digital clutter. Nowadays, we're bombarded by data.
When you say digital clutter, what exactly do you mean by that?
Yeah, so as I said, there's a lot of data nowadays. There's a lot of tools nowadays, and the problem is not only farmers but everyone in the agri industry is getting bombarded by data, bombarded by this, use AI, use this tool. This tool is better than this one. So what you should do is focus on one thing. Design simple interfaces, not complex ones,
Okay.
and always ask yourself, does this tool help the users solve a certain problem? Does it reduce waste? That is, does it improve yield? Does the user know how to use it? And so this
Yeah.
is where all the UX and UI part comes in. You should be able to give the user a very clean and simple interface, not
Mm-hmm.
something that is complex and that's gonna confuse them on the long run. And as I said, the digital clutter is basically having a lot of apps and no decision making is done using these apps. That's something also we're living. Uh, we're using a lot of tools for our day-to-day operations, but at the end of the day, you notice that you're using 10-20% of the tool capabilities, and
True.
you do not have a lot of insights coming out. And
True.
so that's why as a green insight we try to solve this problem and combine everything into a single place.
Mm. That's really good. Really, really good. Really, really good. So, how can in non-technical people, especially
Mhm.
African youth, position
Mhm.
themselves to contribute to or to lead in building data and AI-powered agri-tech solutions?
Mhm. Okay, so first of all, as I said, I'm an agricultural economy major. I do not have a technical background, and honestly, you don't need to be a data scientist to be a part of the data and AI agri-tech revolution.
Oh wow.
First of all, yeah, I think it all starts with curiosity and
Mm.
local context. I think every and each one of us have one big advantage, which is the
Mm.
proximity to the problems. It's like the
Yeah.
local context, okay?
Yeah.
And whether you come like from a family or just like from an agricultural family, or just live like in a area that is outside of the city, you usually understand the realities better than most technical people do, and that
Yes.
exact insight is gold. So you should be starting by documenting the needs and how people are currently solving them. The second
Mm.
thing I should say is you need to get a bit technical. I'm not saying you need to code. You need to speak the language of data and AI. You need to be able to understand the basics, obviously. What is the data? What is an insight? How does AI work? But in simple terms. And obviously, there's a lot of resources on the internet to do this, on YouTube, on LinkedIn. But you should be able to answer this question, which is how can I use data to make better decisions or to extract insights or to tell better stories? Okay.
Yeah.
Um, I think the maybe yeah. Nowadays we have a lot of no code and low code tools. So for example, if
True.
you're not technical, you can very easily build powerful apps, data apps or dashboards. As I said, using Power BI, Metabase, Airtables, and a lot of other tools that can get you to market very quick without being technical. And as I said, we have a huge advantage, which is the local environment. As Africans, we know exactly what our problems are, and this is something that even the best technical, the best software engineer at the Silicon Valley or at Stockholm will not be able to do.
That's really good, really good. So this is like my final question to you at this time, which
Yeah.
is, uh, what's like one practical action you would recommend that our listeners
Mhm.
today, take if they want to contribute meaningfully to Africans' agri-tech or green innovation ecosystem?
Mhm. Yeah. So practically, what I would say is just go for it. Just start by doing and try and get close to the ground. A lot of founders nowadays I see are trying to build from the comforts of their own home. So they're
Yeah,
here, they're, say, they're saying that I'm in technology, I'm in tech, so I can build the next, I don't know, Sherry or whatever startup here in the comfort of my own home without getting dirty hands. So you should be getting close to the ground, literally. And what I mean by this is to pick one farmer, one cooperative, one challenge in your local region, and just go talk to them. People, you'd be surprised how many people are willing to talk about their problems and to find solutions for them. So just go ahead and ask them, what's your biggest challenge right now? How would you want to solve it? What do you wish worked better within your farm, within your company, within your institution? And just take this small step to help. And of course, don't think about money from the first step. Just think value instead. Think, how can I really help them? The money follows the value every single time. So whether it's organizing the data, whether it's connecting them to a resource, whether just documenting a certain story, you just need to have a way to actually help them. And as I said, startups don't start with funding or tech. They start with understanding and empathy. They start
yeah,
with, agriculture based real problems. And then if everyone, I think, takes ownership of one challenge, that's how the ecosystem grows.
mm, everyone needs to take ownership of one challenge. Oh,
Exactly. Exactly.
I know I said that that was like my last question, but you just said
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
You said something that just sort of sparked a couple of curiosity within me, which is you talking about funding and financing, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
you know, for someone that is listening to this right now, or that would listen to this, and they are, probably they are VC backed or something, but they're still sort of
Hmm.
having a bit of challenge with people adopting their technology. What would you say to that
Hmm.
person if that person is on this call? What would you say?
Okay. So you said if someone, for example, was backed by a VC and they're having problems with slow adoptions, with
Yeah, no
uh,
slow.
yeah, with margins, obviously, with making money.
Yeah, what would you
uh,
say to?
yeah, yeah. I think that we're all in the same problems. We all face the same challenges. To be fair, and we all faced slow adoptions at first. We all faced very thin margins, maybe not no margins at all. At first, we faced also infrastructure gaps, specifically in Africa, where infrastructure is very important. We all had challenges in terms of education and educating the final users.
The users,
I think that,
yes.
yeah, what you should do as a VC, if you're backed by a VC or if you're not backed by a VC, go for, first of all, grants. You'd be surprised by how many grants are being given nowadays for agri-tech startups from USAID, GIZ, a lot of programs that are going on. And we were actually on a program backed by the GIZ, the Deutsche Corporation, which is the size for agriculture. And it's not only the ecosystem or the community, but also the financial part. And I know for a fact that this is something very important. And for the founders that say that money is not important, they're being delusional because it's with the money that you pay your salaries, that you pay
Yeah.
for your costs, and that's the huge, challenge for for early stage startups. And that's why my second advice would be looking for not only VC but also impact investors. And what's an impact
Mm.
investor is an investor that actually looking for long-term returns and not just profit. So they're looking for social and environmental returns as well, but they're not in the commercial or business approach. They're not for the quick profit. So they're there. They bring in also some value in terms of advisory as well.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I think it's all returns to your initial business model. So if you're focusing on selling from day one, on having thin but existent margins, you always have the ability later on to fix your unit economics,
Mm.
your costs, whether to blend your fixed costs with variable costs. So there's a lot of financial engineering behind that can actually cut costs and boost your revenue. But last thing I would say is just try and build lean. As I said, MVPs really help with getting traction first and documenting also the impact, whether this worked or this didn't work. And yeah, apply to programs. As an early stage startup, you shouldn't be standing still. You should apply to programs, whether they're providing financial aid or not. You'll be definitely getting something out of it. There's a lot of incubators, accelerators in all Africa. And I think nowadays we need to think long term and not short term. That's also a huge challenge because you need to be patient. Patience is capital for agritech in Africa. And
Yeah.
obviously, you need to shift from expecting very fast returns to actually building this agritech ecosystem that we've been talking about for the past 30 minutes.
Wow, that's good. I like the fact that you mentioned patience capital. I think if there's one thing that most founders that I have interviewed, I
Mm,
interviewed the first person that introduced me to that word patience capital was Femi Adekoya, the founder
mm,
of Aero Precision in Nigeria. He was like saying, agriculture is just that one profession that teaches you how to be patient
yeah,
and persistent.
yeah,
Like so,
yeah,
you
definitely.
have to be willing to put in the patience capital. And so it's not like, oh, I put in work today and I get it tomorrow. That tomorrow might take a while. So you have to just, be patient. So thank you so much for reiterating that. And I like how you talked about people could consider grants because that takes a bit of the pressure off a bit and
Yeah.
also impact investors as well. Oh, that's really good. And I was looking forward to you talking about um, people having co-founders or key players within the startups that have that are putting in equity capital as well in terms of like skill sets and competences. So you don't necessarily need to spend a lot in hiring at the initial.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. Actually, that's what we've done. That's a great insight. Uh,
Okay.
you obviously need to find good people and
Yes.
trusted people. That's also very interesting. And everything related to humans is usually a bit complicated. You need to manage, the person and really read through their intentions. So, what I would say is. Uh, Choose your co-founders or your founding team very well, because as you said, you can uh, have a lot of savings in terms of salaries, but you can also fail your entire startups by not choosing the right founding team. And that's
Mm.
always a trade-off between paying well enough or giving a lot of equity with if is the person were actually worth it. So we need to make this decision maybe by yourself, maybe with advisors as well, because in this case, experience is very important. As experienced as I am, I don't have the experience of a seasoned VC investor that has seen a lot of co-founders and can actually read through a person and really see their dedication through very simple and subtle techniques. Yes. However,
True. Yes.
yeah, you'll need to be able to know whether you can rely on the person. And this is something else I've also learned the hard way, because sometimes when a founder gets discouraged, you need the co-founder or the founding team to boost their morale, and vice
Mm,
versa. Okay,
true.
so
True.
there's it's very important to choose the person with a minimum of I would say of courage, of patience again, but also with someone that believes also in the cause.
Mm. I was just about to ask you, and sort of you just answered because I was just going to ask you if you were to provide like advisory to like a startup company, and they were thinking about okay, their startup team, what would be like the things they should look out for in terms of let's say character traits or competences or expertise? What would you say they should look out for?
Okay, so that's an interesting question as well, because usually when a startup begins its journey, it's usually uh, a bunch of generalists that are working together. So as a founder, I'm doing almost everything. My
Yeah.
co-founder is doing almost everything. My
Yeah.
technical lead is also doing almost everything. They're interacting
Mm-hmm.
with the client, they're developing, they're doing everything. So in the first stages, I would say that you should be all generalists. Find
Mm.
people that, for example, software engineers that are not scared by social interactions, that are not discouraged by making presentations, by interacting with partners.
Yeah.
But later on, what you should be able to do is to shift from this generalist approach to a specialist approach. So when the team
Mm.
grows, when you have like more than 8 people, eight is actually the magical number for teams, because when you have 8 people, it's the exact and optimal amount or number of people that can be managed very easily, and it's actually considered as a small and or a squad, a small team or a squad. Okay.
Mm.
However, when the team grows, you need a bunch of specialized people to target specific things in your startup. So, for example, you'll have a software engineer that's specified or specialized in front end. You have a
Yeah.
data scientist for the data. You have a backend engineer for the database and the backend and all the processing of the data. So you need to be able to make this shift without having a lot of problems in terms of organizations. And
Mm.
I think a lot of startups right now nowadays are facing this exact issue. And there's a lot of podcasts, there's a lot of experts that are talking about this. And if you want to make the shift in an easy way, you need to plan it from the get-go. You need to plan it from
Mm.
day one. And that's where
Mhm.
advisory and that's where strategy for startups actually come from.
Mm. So from your standpoint is from the get-go, these conversations should be had. Like, okay, we'll get to a point in our journey where every single person will then start fully functioning in their core area of expertise.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
however,
definitely,
while
definitely.
we are new, everybody has to still do what needs to get done. As long as you are able to do it, you have to just function in that capacity.
Exactly, exactly. When you're starting, everyone should be able to do everything. That's my motto.
Everyone should be able to do everything. Oh, nice, nice. That's really good. So thank you so much, Nabil, for joining us today on the podcast. It's been close to 20 minutes of insightful and enlightening conversation with you. And I think that most of the things you even shared are things that startups, even that are not within agriculture, can also leverage on the information that has been shared because they're just like valuable information. As long as you're a person that is building something, uh, these are valuable information that can be used. And so, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much, Osarugue.
Oh, interestingly, you pronounced my name really well.
Yeah. I have some friends from Eastern Africa, so I do
Oh,
know
nice.
how the linguistics work.
Oh, nice, 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 nice. That's
Yeah.
really, really, really good. Really, really good. Have you ever visited Nigeria before?
No, I've been to Kenya and Tanzania, Nigeria not yet, but it's definitely on the list. I know that the ecosystem there is incredible.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely on the list.
Okay, definitely. You should come sometime.
Yeah, definitely. I'll give you a call, inshallah.
Oh,